Gojo and Sukuna's battle for dominance continues, and with that comes domain expansion. We all pondered who had the stronger domain, and Gege has finally given us the answer. Well, I'm sure all of you reading chapter 225 are utterly confused.
I'm confused right now, G.
However, none of you have to worry because you have the notification bell on and aren't a silly willy, right? I'm here to break down Gojo vs Sukuna and every minute detail, beginning with all the other sorcerers watching the fight on TV. If that was me, I'd be reacting like a little girl right now. But I ain't the only one scared for Gojo, as everyone else in the room reacts in the same manner, discussing Sukuna's use of domain amplification. Remember that Gojo adapted the same technique in chapter 85 and broke this concept down. In easy words, domain amplification is a refined version of the simple domain, and unlike expansion, it is not imbued with curse technique. It forces the opponent's sure hit attack into an empty space, thus nullifying their ability upon contact. However, if a sorcerer is using domain amplification, they can't use their innate curse technique at the same time. This rule also applies to Sukuna. Now, two pieces of trivia you can't forget are that Gege confirmed Gojo can do anything he tries. He's just that talented, so he learned this technique instantly. That means even against Sukuna, the mental war they are going through will continue to bring out new methods to deal with each other, until one of them can no longer outmaneuver the other on the chessboard. Secondly, you must also remember that even with only physical attacks and curse energy, Jogo was his pants against Gojo, stating that the only reason he survived death at that point of time was because of his domain amplification, meaning that a cursed spirit that was equivalent to 8 to 9 Sukuna fingers would have been dust from just Gojo's punches alone. Jogo even states, is there anything that Gojo doesn't have? This puts even more perspective of how strong Sukuna and Gojo are physically attacking each other and why the whole city is blowing up, explaining why 99% of other sorcerers would die to their punches alone. But speaking of that, remember when I stated last week that Sukuna's domain is like a nuclear bomb? That's been proven to be true, as the lead up to that moment is contextualized with the sorcerers giving us even more information explaining how powerful these two are after witnessing it for themselves. Angel highlights that if Sukuna creates another plan to pass through Gojo's infinity barrier, then Satoru Gojo will lose and die. Bruh, did I just read that right? Oh my God, that would have me at the community like... So with Sukuna fighting without a curse technique, the question arises regarding why both of them were not using domain expansion. As Choso reveals, Sukuna doesn't have a closed barrier, unlike every other sorcerer. This revelation absolutely shocks everyone watching, as they all claim it's impossible at the same time. However, Kusakabe gives an excellent metaphor to explain how this feat is literally godlike. For example, we cannot store water without a vessel, as in it constantly flows and needs to be put in a container to be utilized. Water in a bottle to drink, in your palm, or in the vast surface of the earth itself. Similarly, humans cannot draw a picture on air without a canvas, nor can we make a flower bloom without a root, leaf, or stem. Essentially, Sukuna is running software without the hardware. Now again, Gege has done a magnificent callback to Sukuna activating his domain in chapter 119 with this very analogy. The ability to realize one's innate domain without a barrier is akin to an artist painting a masterpiece not on a canvas but on air. It's a divine technique. Therefore, everyone realizes that Sukuna has evolved past the human realm, in which Kashimo claims he is godlike. Chapter 225 indirectly confirms confirms that Sukuna is better than Gojo in multiple aspects. As Kashimo claims, the switch between amplification and his innate curse technique is insane, even going as far to state that if Gojo didn't have the 6 eyes, Sukuna should be winning in the efficiency of his use of curse energy. However, this further puts into perspective how powerful the 6 eyes technique is. This power alone puts you on a level way beyond 99.9% of other sorcerers naturally, as Gojo doesn't run out of curse energy at all thanks to it. He's countering everything from a godlike Sukuna on the basis of 6 eyes alone, as it refines Gojo's curse energy output to the point that he basically uses a minute amount in each attack. However, Yuta confirms that whilst he had more curse energy than Gojo, his teacher was better at wielding it because he can never run out of it. All of this interconnects to Kenjaku, convincing the world leaders that Gojo can power a whole country alone. Now, Gege being Gege, don't forget, he hates Gojo. So he's now confirmed in chapter 225 that Gojo can actually run out of curse energy eventually if he constantly spams domain expansion. But on the other hand, Megami's domain also didn't have a closed barrier, and even a sorcerer like Kenjaku was able to pull off a barrierless domain. We know Sukuna has the same ability, as he mastered the 10 Shadows technique in a matter of a few hours. He off-screen tamed Mahoraga, the Shikigami that has never been conquered in history. Therefore, we now further understand Sukuna's supremacy. Megami's domain being barrierless with an infinite number of shadows to constantly barrage Gojo is going to be disastrous, as Yuta tells everyone that Sukuna's curse energy level at a minimum is double his own reserves. Keep in mind, Yuta was described by Ryu to have a bottomless pit of curse energy, and he has the queen of curse spirits by his side. But in comparison to Sukuna right now in the story, it makes it clear that even Yuta is fodder to him. That's crazy! However, Gojo and Sukuna are not using their domain expansion because they themselves don't know what would happen if they did, since there is no precedent for such an overpowered clash. Without a clue about what the rules would be regarding the must-hit effects, it happens. Gojo and Sukuna cast their domains. The strongest versus the strongest. A battle nobody could see the result of. The domains intertwine, and for the first time, we see someone looking down to Gojo, and conversely, him looking up to someone. However, just like their earlier show of the fist fight, even in their domains, they were equal in how refined their curse energy use was and how effective their domains were. They were so much in tandem that a delicate balance was reached, cancelling out their must-hit attacks. Simply put, it was a stalemate, which is insane to think about since they both have the most powerful domains in the whole series. But what this also meant that if either of them got severe damage and the domain collapsed, the must-hit effect will harm them in a split second. And this is where a major difference between Gojo and Sukuna's domain became crucial. Gojo's domain was bound by a barrier. Akatami once again links a concept he introduced back in chapter 30. In the fight against Mahito, when Nanami gets trapped in his domain expansion, Yuji breaks into it from the outside, demonstrating the concept that the more a barrier technique is reinforced from the inside, the more vulnerable it is to external forces. Megami also used the same idea in chapter 109 by entering Dagon's domain and summoning his own to create an opening. Since Infinite Void is also a closed domain, Sukuna quickly gauged that the one thing that would trample over it was an external attack. And since Malevolent Shrine had a longer range without a barrier, he was the one with an unmissable advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say it, it's over, y'all. Or is it? The strongest domain has been destroyed. The vicious blade broke the untouchable. Gojo got hit by dismantle. It's the default slash, whereas cleave can be adjusted on the basis of the opponent's toughness and curse energy level. However, if we were to scale the minimum speed of each attack, let's look back to when Sukuna used his dismantle on Nanako, where everything happened in less than a second. From the looks of it, Sukuna didn't move an inch, yet before Nanako could press a button to capture a picture, she was dismantled. According to the census school, the average reaction speed for a young female is less than 44 milliseconds. Bear in mind, all sorcerers can think of many things in milliseconds as Yuji did to Mahito, and the manga stated that Hakairi is faster than Mahito, who had the capability to activate domain in 0.2 seconds. So this means Sukuna outscales both of these characters hundreds of times over, so it's unimaginable how fast he is. Sukuna dismantled Nanako's full body equally into many square pieces. This would mean the speed of his attack is much less than 44 milliseconds if we consider dismantle had to be used in every part of her body, which was around 160 centimeters. Bear in mind, the fastest knife thrower in this world can hurl 102 knives in a minute. But let me remind you of chapter 71, when Toji stabbed Gojo in the same place with the inverted spear of heaven. However, he mocks Toji in chapter 74 for losing because he didn't bother to cut off his head. Unfortunately, our community points out many foreshadowings of Gojo sacrificing himself for the world, such as chapter 13, in which he recommends Yuji Itadori to watch a movie in which the heroine is super annoying but meets a gruesome death. Funnily enough, everyone is watching their fight in the present as a movie, and in the bonus pages of the volume, and even till now, everyone calls Gojo's personality annoying or stupid. A gruesome death by Sukuna's hands isn't far off, as we know he's a cannibal and his domain literally has an archaic word in its translation referring to the kitchen of a palace where an emperor would eat his meals. Another solid foreshadowing to Gojo losing his 6 eyes comes from opening 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen's anime, where only one eye of his is highlighted. We can't take this imagery light-hearted because Sukuna's bath ritual, the Kodaku one, was foreshadowed in the first opening itself with the water surrounding him. So is it all over for Gojo already? Especially because Malevolent Shrine is a non-stop attacking domain? Well, none of you are stupid, right? Because the answer is obviously of course not.
Of course!
I can say there are a bunch of reasons why Gojo will not die. Just yet. Number 1, even if sorcerers can't use their innate curse technique immediately after casting a domain, Gojo still has reverse curse technique, the most powerful weapon to heal himself instantaneously, in which he literally survived death at only 16 years old against Toji. Number 2, he can still use a number of techniques to protect himself, like simple domain, and even teleporting himself out of the 200-meter range of Sukuna's domain, where Gege confirmed in certain circumstances Gojo has the ability to teleport. But more importantly, Gojo is a very quick learner, as I mentioned earlier. He can adapt to any situation or extreme stress. Like, think no further with him coming up with the idea of 0.2 seconds of domain expansion in Shibuya, and since the 6 eyes are on his side, he can analyze everything to its molecular form, gaining priceless information which was literally mentioned in this very chapter. In fact, we know Gojo understands the core of curse energy, meaning now that he's experienced Sukuna's barrierless domain, it would be no surprise if he also managed to create his own version of the same thing. Also, remember guys, Gojo had been training inside the prison realm for 19 days, and there was also another month since the fight was declared. There's no way he's going down so easily, even if Akutami hates him. So we can expect a surprise trick up Gojo's sleeve that will end in a stalemate once again, which also arises the question that since Sukuna has 2 domains, does Gojo as well? He also has 2 techniques, 6 eyes and limitless. Infinite void clearly stems from 6 eyes since it's based on information overload, but there's a chance that Gojo has also discovered a domain based on his limitless. We are yet to see Sukuna transform into his original form with 4 eyes and 4 arms. Gojo Gojo will now get the upper hand for the story to progress. It would actually be insane if we see two sorcerers with two domains go against each other. So whilst it seems like Sukuna did some damage, remember that the fight itself started with Gojo burning off an entire arm of Sukuna. So this is not the end. We can technically say Gojo has actually done more damage in the fight so far. But to enjoy more peak fiction, why not learn every single secret and the entire 1000-year history behind this fight? The video is on your screen right now.